Hi, my name is DBarr, and I'd like to share with you my story of amazing transformation. As a little girl, I grew up in a very loving family, and my mom took me to church as a little child, and I was the oldest of 4 children growing up. But somewhere along the line, about the age of 15 or 16, I had a devastating betrayal in my life, and at that time, I determined in my heart that there was no God. I didn't believe that what had happened to me could have happened if there was a God. And as a result of that, I ended up abusing alcohol at the age of 16 and taking drugs and slid into deep, deep depression. And as a result, I was trying to kill myself a couple times, and just my life was out of control. My family ended up breaking apart. My parents got divorced. And then I went off into college. And when I got to college, this state that I was in had set me up for abuse. And so in college, I experienced sexual abuse by men. And over the next couple of years, I just developed a relationship with my roommate in college, actually. Early on, it was not a sexual relationship, but we began to sleep together. Don't know exactly when it happened or why it happened, but it seemed to be meeting a need for both of us, a need for comfort and a need for just affection. And that was fine for a while until she got a boyfriend. And then when she was with her boyfriend, I became extremely jealous. And at that time I began to wonder, am I gay? And I didn't really understand what that meant at the time. So that was just a very difficult time in my life. Then a little bit later, I went off to the military, and that's when I actually was introduced to homosexuality for the first time. A woman gently introduced me to a life of homosexuality, and I fell head over heels in love with her. And for the next 5 to 6 years, I was in this rocky roller coaster relationship with her, as she was continuing a relationship with another woman. So this was just the beginning of an 18-year trek into the homosexual lifestyle for me. That relationship eventually broke up, and I moved to a new state and ended up meeting another woman. And the funny thing about this woman is, when we were dating, she invited me to church. And I told her, there's no God. Told her I hadn't been in a church probably for 15 or 16 years, and I had no interest in going to church. But of course we were dating, and so I wanted to do what she wanted me to do. And so I went to church with her. Turns out it was a gay church. Didn't even know there was such a thing. But for the next 6 to 7 years, I was taught gay theology. And I was in this relationship with this woman. Ended up not being a very good relationship. She ended up abusing alcohol and abusing me emotionally and sexually. So that relationship lasted about 5 or 6 years. And then I moved from that state to a new state and met yet another woman. Now this woman was about 10 years older than me. And as we began this relationship, we basically sold our respective properties and pooled all of our resources. Ended up buying land and building a house, and actually entered into a civil union, which is very similar to marriage. I thought this was the one. And as we continued in our relationship, I had this urge to find a church. And so initially I was looking for the gay church in the new state that I was in, but wasn't really satisfied there. So we began going to different churches around the area. And we went into one particular church that just embraced us, completely embraced us, and allowed us to come in as a couple. Never said a word to us about the way we were living our lives. And we got involved in a women's group at that church, a Bible study. We would go every Sunday night to this Bible study. And the women just embraced us and loved us unconditionally. And at the same time, they were teaching us about the Bible and about prayer and about applying biblical principles to our lives. And as I began to do that, and as I began to pray to God, I started to ask the God, is this the life that you want for me? And she was kind of doing the same thing. I didn't realize it. But we both came to the realization around the same time that that was not the way that God had designed us, and that we were not living our lives in accordance with His will. So we made a conscious decision to walk away from homosexuality. And I can tell you it wasn't an easy journey. The women in that Bible study became very important to us because we needed the emotional support that they provided. They just loved us unconditionally, never once confronted us about our homosexuality, didn't pull out the Bible and use those scriptures that are so often used to condemn people that are dealing with this. And they just loved us unconditionally. So I ended up writing a book about my experience, and it's called All Things New. It's basically a book full of journal entries as I was going through the ups and downs of the emotions, as I was walking away from this life of homosexuality. And I can tell you, again, it was very difficult because we really still loved each other. It was only the realization that God didn't want us to live that way anymore that made us decide to walk away from homosexuality. So we had to deal with how do we relate to each other now, because, you know, we still enjoy each other's company. It's like now at church, can we hug each other like we hug the other women, or can we not? And we had all these new things to work out. Plus, we were essentially married and had our whole lives enmeshed together, and we had to undo all of that. So this women's group at the church was very vital to our ability to overcome all the emotions associated with that life. And now I can say, as I began my healing, that the same-sex attractions naturally faded over time as I was receiving the love that I really needed from these women in this women's Bible study that just treated me like any other woman. It was almost imperceptible as it was occurring. I didn't realize what was happening, but now I can look back over my life and realize, wow, God, you did something amazing here. You began to heal me through these women. So over the course of my life, I've recognized now some of the things that led me into the life of homosexuality. One of those things for me was a break in my relationship with my mother at a critical stage in my life. I was 15, 16 years old, and basically my relationship with my mother got severed. And at the time, she was my very best friend. So that was very hurtful to me. And what I recognized later, especially with the last relationship I was in, but actually all of them, is I was seeking that love of my mother through these women, because the last woman that I was with was 10 years older than me. Didn't dawn on me at the time, but oftentimes I noticed that in other people that maybe had a broken relationship with their mother, that they will get into relationships with older women. Another thing about me as a child, I was very driven to excel in school, scholastically. Also, I played softball and excelled in sports, excelled in music, excelled in anything that I did. In fact, I shied away from things that I wasn't really good at because I was looking for that affirmation from other people, not recognizing that really that affirmation I needed was from God all along. Another thing for me is, as I mentioned earlier, in college I experienced sexual abuse. And so when I met that first woman that was coming on to me as a lesbian, it kind of felt like safe love, like she couldn't possibly hurt me like the men had. And so I think some women who are lesbian actually go into that life because of pain from sexual abuse and hurt from men. They feel like that women are a kindred spirit. One of the things that I always thought was only a woman can satisfy a woman emotionally. A lot of the relationships for women are actually deep emotional relationships. For the most part, from what I've seen in my life and the people that I know, some of the people that have been in my ministry, is they're not really looking for sex. It's more of an emotional relationship that they're desiring, and you know, a deep, deep friendship. Not so much sex for women, I think. One of the things for me that was just vital for my healing was a group of heterosexual women who were willing to come alongside me, to love on me, to touch me, to be okay with hugging me and not thinking I'm going to chase after them or something. That was vital to me because I really needed just strong, healthy women in my life. For so many years, for 18 years, the only women that I had associated really with were other lesbians who are other women that are hurting and looking for something in another person that they can never find in these relationships. So the love and the support and the emotional just investment in me by these women at that church was vital to my healing. In addition to the women, some of them, their husbands or other men in the church, began to teach me that men aren't bad, that men are safe. And to get that affirmation from men, one of the things that was kind of funny the first couple of times that I tried to begin to dress like a woman. I mean, for 18 years I was wearing baggy men's clothes, never learned how to put on makeup, really never learned to be a woman because I was acting more masculine than feminine for so many years. Is the first time I got brave enough to wear a skirt and a blouse to church. I vowed in my mind from the parking lot that if anybody looked at me funny, I was out of there and I would never do that again. So I went into the church with fear and trepidation with this skirt on and a blouse. And all I got was, "Wow, you look fantastic." And I was like, thank God. And so men affirming me and helping me to recognize that, yes, I am a woman. So that was very, very important to me. Another thing is just, have somebody come alongside you to teach you all those things that you didn't learn, especially for a woman that might have moved into the lesbian lifestyle at a young age. Probably doesn't even know anything about dressing like a woman or acting like a woman. So it takes strong women that are willing to come alongside, love unconditionally, and just embrace a woman like me who's coming out of that lifestyle. That was the most important part for me, was the support and the structure that I needed to be able to learn how to be a woman. And it didn't happen to me till I was over 40 years old. I actually had to learn how to be a woman, how to dress like a woman, how to act like a woman. Another thing, at my church, I was moved into a position of leadership with another woman in a Bible study, and when I pulled up into the parking lot one Sunday night before class, my tire went flat on my car. And I'm thinking, dang, I got to fix that thing on the way when I get back out to the parking lot. But I told the woman, my co-leader, I told her what happened. Well, she secretly called her husband, who went and fixed my tire for me. And it was the first time a man had done anything nice for me, because I had been completely self-sufficient. I mean, I changed the oil on my car. My dad had taught me that as a child. And I just honestly broke down crying. It was like the nicest thing anybody had ever done for me. I couldn't believe that somebody would do that. And then I thought, well, that's really not my role as a woman to be changing the tire on my car. Another thing that helped me with my healing was just being around a family. A couple of people invited me to dinner at their homes. And I got to go into their house with chaos everywhere, shoes everywhere, people and toys and junk everywhere, and just a family environment, because my family got broken so early that I didn't have that. So I would just sit there in amazement and watch a husband and a wife and children interacting with each other the way it's supposed to be. So that's another way that people can really help a person who's trying to come out of the lesbian or gay lifestyle, is invite them into your family. Don't be afraid of them. Invite them in and just treat them like somebody, like anybody else. That was very healing to me, just to be invited and feel like I was part of a family. It's like I didn't even want to leave. I wanted to stay there because it was like the first time that I felt like I was a part of a real family. Because in the gay and lesbian lifestyle, your family becomes other gays, other lesbians, and you create these pseudo-social structure, which, for me, it wasn't satisfying. I really needed to see how God designed the family. So that was an amazing healing thing for me. Well, I hope my story has helped you to understand some of the issues surrounding same-sex attraction. And I wanted to let you know that I wrote a couple of books that you may be interested in. I wrote the book All Things New, A Former Lesbian's Lifelong Search for Love, which is really a great resource for ministry leaders so they can see what a church did really well in helping me to overcome my homosexuality. It's also very useful for people themselves that are maybe struggling with this issue, because you can see my journal entries, you can see my highs and lows along the way, and see basically what it took for me to walk away from that lifestyle. It's also useful for parents or friends of people who are gay and lesbian, because it will help them to understand kind of how it feels on my side of actually living that life, and especially if I'm trying to walk away from it, and if your loved ones are trying to walk away from it, what kind of support that they would need. I've also written another book with another author called Practical Exercises for Women in Recovery of Same-Sex Attraction. This book has a lot of exercises that you can use to work through your particular issues surrounding your same-sex attraction. And one other thing that I'm working on right now is a project where I've developed a ministry at my church, and it's modeled after my own transformation out of homosexuality. And so that workbook will be coming out very soon. It's All Things New, a discipleship ministry for overcoming same-sex attraction. So again, I hope my story has helped you. And if you're interested in any of these resources, it's available on our website at DBarrMinistries.org. Thank you.